Hollywood, the home of the rich and the famous, the birthplace of cinema. The glamour, the riches, and the lifestyles leave us hanging on their every moment. But not all of its secrets are the glitzy success stories they seem. In fact, Hollywood, whilst propelling some to superstardom, has chewed up and spat out more ambitious hopefuls than you or I have had hot dinners. It has been host to scandal, murder, crime, and every inch of it has a secret to spill, if somebody's listening. Some of those will go to the grave, and some are already talking from beyond it. Hollywood has always been home to the devious, whether it be money-pinching studios, payroll drug dealers, shady fixers, mobsters, or simply stars with too much money and little to no inhibitions. It's time to peek behind the curtain. Let's take a look at some of the ghosts of the past and what macabre tales they have to tell. In this episode, we explore the chilling tale of Sid Vicious, the punk rock icon who became entangled in a murder that shocked the world. Born John Simon Ritchie on May 10, 1957, in London, England, Sid Vicious rose to fame as the bassist of the iconic punk rock band, the Sex Pistols. His rebellious attitude and raw energy made him a symbol of the punk movement. Enter Nancy Spangler, a troubled American groupie known for her tumultuous relationship with Sid. Born in 1958 to an upper-middle-class family in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, diagnosed with schizophrenia by the time she was 11 years old, her teen years saw her seek solace from drugs. She moved out at 17, began stripping, and eventually becoming a groupie of sorts to punk bands, which is how she met Vicious. Their intense bond would ultimately lead to both their tragic and mysterious deaths. On October 12, 1978, the world was stunned when Nancy Spangler was found dead in their room at New York City's Chelsea Hotel, with a stab wound to her abdomen. Sid Vicious, in a drug-induced haze, was immediately arrested and charged with her murder. The circumstances surrounding Nancy's death were murky at best. Was it a drug-fueled argument gone awry, or was there something more sinister at play? Vicious was interviewed by police in the hallway of the Chelsea, as well as in a conference room on the hotel premises. Initially, he stated to officers that he had no idea what happened to Nancy. He just woke up and found her dead. The police were not convinced. After further interrogation, Vicious started making up scenarios about the possibility of Spangler rolling over on the knife while in bed, accidentally stabbing herself before finally confessing to the murder. He was then arrested. While being handcuffed, Vicious went back to claiming he was innocent of the murder. Days later, he was charged with second-degree murder and given a $58,000 bond, which was promptly paid by Virgin Records. Vicious would find himself with a revoked bail in the next few weeks for a bar fight in which he attacked a man with a broken beer bottle. But again, he bailed out on $10,000. In between his arrests, he also tried to commit suicide by slitting his wrists, but was discovered by someone and taken to the hospital. Friends and bandmates were divided over Sid's innocence, and the media frenzy intensified as the investigation progressed, a trial imminent. All that changed on February 1, 1979. Vicious had been released on bail after serving 55 days in jail and gone through a detoxification program. Vicious had a small get-together at a friend's house to celebrate his jail release. At the friend's home, Vicious had his mother look for heroin for him, which she later delivered to him. Vicious, believing the drug was too weak, asked his friend Peter Gravel to get him some more. Gravel distributed the heroin to Vicious, which was reportedly 98% pure, far too strong for human consumption. Vicious would overdose shortly after shooting up the heroin, but friends were able to revive him. Vicious ended up taking more of the drug and was found dead by his mother the following morning, 4 months after Spangler's death. He was 21 years old. With the death of Vicious, investigators closed the case on Spangler's death. No further investigation was ever done. After Vicious died from an overdose, his mother, Anne Beverly, found a suicide note in her son's possessions. In the letter, Vicious explains that he wants to reunite with Nancy. This letter also states the couple made a pact, leading friends to believe that the two actually made a suicide pact that went wrong. We know that Vicious tried to slit his wrists in the weeks after Spangler's death, and the couple did tell an interviewer for a magazine that they planned to kill themselves months before their deaths. Beverly contacted Spungen's parents after finding the note, asking if Vicious could be buried beside Spungen, but her parents refused to allow it. Beverly got Vicious cremated and secretly sprinkled his ashes over Nancy's grave. Was it a suicide pact gone wrong? Over the years, numerous theories and conspiracies have emerged. Some believe Nancy's death was accidental, while others claim that a third party was involved. Days before Spungen's death, the couple had come into quite a bit of money. Vicious had just been paid in cash his royalties for the remake of Sinatra's song My Way. He had also been doing quite a few solo performances around New York, including several at Max's Kansas City, a famous hangout of New York artists, where he was paid $4,000 per show. Friends of the couple all report that Vicious had quite a bit of money at the point of the murder, and at times he would reprimand Spungen for carrying around a significant amount of cash, since she would be seen dropping $100 bills all over the floor while in public. It was estimated the couple had around $24,000 in the hotel the night Spungen was killed. But it was not in the room when the police arrived after her murder. The money was never recovered, and while some say police may have taken it, or that the idea of such a vast sum is laughable to have been there to begin with, others believe the money could have been a motive for the crime, which would rule out Vicious as the killer. Rocket's Redglare, whose real name is Michael Mora, was an actor and comedian who sometimes worked as a bodyguard for artist Jean-Michel Basquiat and Sid Vicious. Redglare was also in the business of selling pills, and allegedly, Spungen called Redglare around 2:30 a.m., the morning of her death, asking for some Dilaudid pills. Some claim that Redglare was one of the last to be seen at the Chelsea Hotel the day Spungen died, and that it's possible he was responsible for her murder. Phil Strongman, author of Pretty Vacant, A History of Punk, believes Redglare is responsible for Spungen's death. Strongman notes that while Redglare was at the club CBGB's in 1978, he admitted to other patrons that he was responsible for robbing and killing Spungen. And he even went as far as producing some dollar bills with blood on them as evidence. Police never spoke to Redglare during their investigation, despite him visiting the hotel room the day of Spungen's death. Redglare died in 2001 from kidney failure, liver failure, cirrhosis, and hepatitis C at the age of 52, taking the truth of his knowledge of the events that night with him. Another interesting theory regarding Spungen's death to emerge places the blame on a mysterious man who is only known as Michael. Not to be confused with Rockets, but drawing similar parallels, Michael was a young drug dealer who had befriended Nancy and who was staying on the 6th floor of the Chelsea Hotel. According to several of the couple's friends, he was frequently with them the days leading up to Nancy's. Musician Neon Leon, who himself had been with the couple on the night she was slain, recalls a phone conversation with Nancy, estimated to be shortly before the murder occurred, in which he could hear the man he knew as Michael talking in the background. Another resident of the Chelsea, Victor Colicchio, also stopped at the couple's door shortly before the stabbing and corroborated this, stating that Michael was inside. According to the roommates of this mysterious man, who has never been able to be formally identified other than a skekth drawn from memory by former Musican Steve Dior, Michael returned to his place at the Chelsea smiling, saying that Spungen was in a body bag and that Vicious had killed her. Michael was carrying a large wad of cash, which was tied up with Nancy's purple hair tie. The roommates told others they shared the information about Michael with the police, but nothing ever came of. Michael ended up checking out of the Chelsea Hotel shortly after and was never seen or heard from again. Alan G. Parker, a British documentary filmmaker who has investigated the murder for over 24 years, made a film claiming to have spoken to several witnesses who are adamant that Vicious was innocent. Crucially, Parker says police found the fingerprints of 6 people who had been in the couple's room at New York's rundown Chelsea Hotel in the early hours, but none was ever interviewed. One witness, who subsequently became a priest, tried to tell detectives that he thought Vicious was not the murderer, but was given the brush off by investigating officers. Rumors that some of the investigating officers even doubted Vicious's ability to have even wielded the knife that tore through Nancy's abdomen, as medical tests carried out on Vicious at the time of his arrest suggested the musician would have been incapable of the attack because he was out cold at the time after taking so much of a powerful sedative that it would have killed all but the most hard-bitten drug users. Recently, Glenn Matlock, the original bassist for the band, gave an interview in which he claimed to know full well that Sid didn't kill Nancy. He refers to multiple friends and witnesses present in the building with no reason to lie and alludes to the dangerous people they associated with at the time. Of course, it's also possible Spungen may have killed herself. Musician and disc jockey Howie Pyro, who was with Vicious the night he died, believes that Spungen was probably responsible for her own death. He has stated that he does not believe Spungen was above stabbing herself just to try to get Vicious's attention. Both Spungen and Vicious were known to self-mutilate, and her stabbing herself without realizing the devastating consequences cannot be ruled out. The case remains a subject of speculation, with questions about what truly transpired that fateful night still unanswered. While the motive and murderer remains shrouded in mystery, even after all these years, what remains true is that two young, promising rebels lost their lives. One in a horrifying attack, and the other from the deep despair and void left by the trauma. In the glitzy realm of Hollywood, where stars shine bright, there exists a darker side, a world where fame and notoriety converge. In this episode, we explore the shocking story of Skyler Deleon, a bit-part actor who's starred in his own tales of ambition gone awry, secrets hidden beneath the glamour, and the harrowing descent from stardom to infamy, with a slice of murder along the way. Skyler Deleon, who, like so many others, sought to make his mark in the ruthless world of showbiz. Skyler's journey in Hollywood was marked by promise. He appeared in beloved children's shows and even had a minor role in the iconic Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. But as Skyler's star began to fade, his dreams would take a dark and desperate turn. Our story takes us to the stunning California coast, where the idyllic life of Thomas and Jackie Hawks was about to take a tragic and unforeseeable turn. Meet Thomas and Jackie Hawks, a retired couple who had spent 2 blissful years sailing up and down the California coast on their cherished yacht, the Well-Deserved. Their days were filled with laughter, family, and the endless beauty of the open sea. Life couldn't have been sweeter. But the news of an impending grandchild brought new joy to their lives, prompting a life-changing decision. In November of 2004, the Hawks decided to sell their beloved yacht and purchase a home closer to their son Ryan, the expectant father. The Hawks put their yacht, the Well-Deserved, up for sale. It was worth nearly $500,000, a testament to the life they had built together. And it was here, at the crossroads of their dreams, that they encountered Skyler Deleon, his pregnant wife Jennifer, and their child. Little did they know that this decision would lead them into the clutches of a nightmare they could never have imagined. November 15, 2004, dawned like any other day, but it marked the beginning of a horrifying ordeal for the Hawks. They set sail with Skyler Deleon, his wife Jennifer, and a man named Alonzo McChain. But when the Well-Deserved returned to Newport Beach Harbor, the Hawks were nowhere to be found. A sinister silence hung over the once vibrant vessel. As days turned into weeks, concern grew among family and friends. The Hawks had vanished without a trace. On November 26, 2004, an attempt was made to access the Hawks' bank account from Mexico, a sinister twist that intensified the mystery. Authorities had to unravel the web of deceit spun by Skyler Deleon, who claimed to have purchased the yacht from the Hawks. But the evidence pointed in a different direction, and suspicions grew stronger. In March 2005, Alonzo McChain confessed to a horrifying plan that implicated Skyler Deleon. Jennifer Deleon was found guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder in November 2006, after just 4 hours of jury deliberation. Meanwhile, Skyler Deleon faced a trial that would expose the true depths of the horrors committed on that ill-fated yacht. The chilling details began to emerge, painting a horrifying picture of what transpired during that fateful sea trial. Authorities allege that during the sea trial of the yacht, Skyler Deleon, along with accomplices Alonzo McChain and John Kennedy, carried out a sinister plan. They bound and gagged the Hawks, tying them to the yacht's anchor. Then, in a cruel act of brutality, they threw the defenseless couple overboard, their fate sealed by the heavy anchor. The once serene sea became a watery grave for Thomas and Jackie Hawks, their lives extinguished in a violent and heartless act. As the trial unfolded, the true extent of Skyler Deleon's greed and malevolence was exposed, leaving a nation in shock. In the world of Hollywood, where dreams are born and legends are made, Skyler Deleon's pursuit of fame and wealth led him down a dark and treacherous path, one that ultimately ended in the most heinous of crimes. The well-deserved became a symbol of horror, a vessel that witnessed the darkest depths of human ambition. In an industry where success is measured by the thickness of one's portfolio, Skyler's pursuit of stardom would eventually plunge him into a chilling abyss of greed, deceit, and murder. In this episode, we explore the shocking incident involving director John Landis and the tragic events on the set of Twilight Zone, the movie. Our story begins with John Landis, a talented filmmaker known for his comedic genius. Born on August 3, 1950, in Chicago, Landis's rise to fame started in the 1970s with hits like Animal House and The Blues Brothers. By the early 80s, Landis was a household name in Hollywood, but his career was about to take a dark and unexpected turn. In 1982, John Landis was at the helm of Twilight Zone, the movie, a high-profile project that would soon be marred by tragedy. The film featured 4 segments, and it was the first segment, titled Time Out, that would forever haunt Landis. During the production of Time Out, Landis made a fateful decision to include child actors Micah Din Lei and Renee Shin-Yi Chen without the required permits, violating California's child labor laws. The children were cast after their uncle, Peter Wai-tae Chen, was approached by a colleague involved in the production. They were never informed of the dangerous conditions they would face on set. On that ill-fated night, the scene called for actor Vic Morrow to carry the 2 children through a simulated Vietnam War setting. The presence of a low-flying helicopter and explosive effects created a deadly combination. Tragically, the helicopter's rotor blades struck Morrow and the children, resulting in their deaths. The accident shook Hollywood to its core. In the aftermath of the horrific accident, a trial took place that would divide public opinion and rock the entertainment industry. The defense claimed that the explosions were detonated at the wrong time, pointing fingers at Landis for his repeated insistence on risky shots. In October 1984, the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, released its findings, attributing the accident to the proximity of the helicopter to the special effects explosions and a lack of coordination between the pilot and Landis. Landis, along with others involved in the production, faced involuntary manslaughter charges in a 9-month trial that began in 1986. Despite a bitter and divisive trial, the defendants were all acquitted of manslaughter charges in connection with the accident. However, the world learned the full extent of Landis's cavalier attitude to safety. The scene itself was not originally scripted. Landis assembled an explosives unit and rented a helicopter in order to shoot the scene. However, the production ran well into the early hours of the morning. But Landis continued to film, even though he didn't have the proper permits to allow the children to continue working. In reality, Chen and Lei shouldn't have been on the set in the first place. On top of the illegality of allowing children to work that late, Landis was also required to have a permit that signed off on the children working near explosions. Having never sought out the permits in the first place, Landis opted to pay the children's parents under the table in order to compensate them following California's child labor laws, and the tragedy had far-reaching consequences for Hollywood and filmmaking safety standards. Following on from the Twilight Zone deaths, the Directors Guild of America issued formal, firmer safety guidelines. Safety committees and regulations were established to ensure the safety of actors and crew members on set. Filming accidents decreased significantly, but the scars of that tragic night still linger. As time marched on, despite the tighter regulations, the memory of past tragedies slowly began to fade, and the cutting of budgetary corners has continued to put the lives of actors and crew members in jeopardy. The same day the verdict was handed down in the Twilight Zone case, a helicopter crash on the Manila set of Braddock Missing in Action 3 killed 4 Filipino soldiers. Camera assistant Sarah Jones was killed by a freight train while working on the low-budget film Midnight Rider in 2014. And apparent negligence on sets resulted in the shooting deaths of the actor Brandon Lee during the production of The Crow in 1993, and of the cinematographer Helena Hutchins on the set of Rust in 2021. Today, John Landis remains a controversial figure in Hollywood, forever linked to the tragic events of that fateful night. However, has still remained in gainful employment. In 2009, Landis signed a petition in support of director Roman Polanski, who had been detained while traveling to a film festival in relation to his 1977 sexual abuse charges, which the petition argued would undermine the tradition of film festivals as a place for works to be shown freely and safely, and that arresting filmmakers traveling to neutral countries could open the door for actions of which no one can know the effects. In the world of showbiz, the glitz and glamour often conceal a darker truth. The story of John Landis and the Twilight Zone tragedy serves as a sobering reminder that in Hollywood, the pursuit of perfection can sometimes lead to unthinkable consequences. In the glittering world of Hollywood, fame and fortune often come at a heavy price, but not necessarily for those who inadvertently played God with the lives of those who have taken that trusting step onto the yellow brick road. Get ready to delve into the dark chapters that Hollywood tried to erase and the crimes that rocked the entertainment world. In this episode, we uncover the haunting story of Jean Spangler, a rising starlet whose life was tragically cut short in the heart of Hollywood in a mystery suited to a film noir. Jean Spangler, born in 1923 in Seattle, was a young woman with dreams as big as the Hollywood sign itself. Her journey began on the dance floors of nightclubs, where her grace and charisma turned heads and her name began to shine. As she waltzed her way through the golden age of cinema, Spangler worked tirelessly as an extra, determined to make a name for herself in Hollywood. Her dedication and passion led her to film sets, where she crossed paths with some of the biggest names in the industry. But on October 7, 1949, at the tender age of 27, Jean Spangler vanished without a trace. Her disappearance sent shockwaves through the entertainment world and left the City of Angels in a state of bewilderment. The evening started off well enough when at 5:30 p.m., Spangler left her Park La Brea apartment on Colgate Avenue for work as an extra, leaving her 5-year-old daughter Christine with her sister-in-law Sophie for the evening. Spangler's mother, Florence, with whom she shared the apartment, was away visiting relatives in Kentucky at the time. Prior to her work start time, Spangler had informed Sophie that she was going to be meeting her ex-husband, Dexter Benner, to discuss child support payments. The two had only recently settled a long custody battle over their daughter, Christine. Spangler called the apartment about 2 hours after she left to ask about her daughter and tell Sophie not to expect her home until the next morning because she would be working a full 8-hour shift. When Spangler hadn't returned by Saturday night, Sophie called the police. She came down the stairs and asked how she looked, Sophie later told reporters. She smiled at me, and then her little girl, Christine, asked where she was going. Going to work, Jean answered again, but she winked at me when she said it. A manhunt was launched, with volunteers and police combing every inch of her last trace. 2 days after her disappearance, a chilling discovery was made in Griffith Park, Jean's torn purse. Inside, a cryptic note sent shivers down investigators' spines. It was addressed to someone named Kirk and read, "Kirk, can't wait any longer. Going to see Dr. Scott. It will work best this way while Mother is away." The unfinished sentence, leaving more questions than answers. This mysterious note ignited a flurry of theories and speculations, plunging the Hollywood elite into a state of paranoia. To this very day, no one has seen or heard from Jean, who left for set one day and vanished without a trace. An even more disturbing twist in the tale was that the Screen Extras Guild confirmed to investigators that Spangler had no call for work that night. TV studios also had no record of her employment for that date. So if not at work, where had she been? Investigators questioned Benner about her statement to Sophie that she was going to meet him. He claimed to have not seen his former wife for several weeks, a statement corroborated by his new wife, Lynn Lasky Benner. A worker at the farmer's market, close to Spangler's home, recalled seeing her browsing the aisles around 6 p.m. and noted that she appeared to be waiting for someone. Sophie confirmed that she had not taken any money out with her that evening. This was to be the last known sighting of Jean Spangler. One theory suggested that Jean Spangler may have fallen victim to a botched abortion, a desperate and clandestine choice made in a time when such procedures were illegal and dangerous. Another theory implicated her ex-husband, embroiled in a bitter custody battle over their young daughter. Could the custody dispute have escalated to a sinister level? Following the immediate aftermath of the disappearance, custody of her and Benner's daughter, Christine, was temporarily awarded to Benner on October 27, 1949. The following year, a further custody battle ensued between Benner and Florence. Benner had been denying visitation to Florence on the basis that she was upsetting Christine talking about her mother. Benner even defied a court order that permitted her to visit the child, a defiance that would cost him 15 days in jail for being in contempt of court. Instead, he fled California with his daughter and later settled in Florida until his death in 2007. Speculation reached even darker depths, with rumors of connections to the mafia, given her association with nightclubs frequented by underworld figures. Did her dancing days lead her into a deadly web of organized crime? In the early days of Hollywood, organized crime and the glamour waltzed hand in hand, and many were unable to avoid interactions in a shared space. No strong connections were ever proven, so this could simply be a theory based on connection by association. As the investigation unfolded, the spotlight turned to a surprising source, Hollywood superstar Kirk Douglas, who had crossed paths with Jean recently on a movie set. Douglas initially denied any memory of her, but later changed his story. I told Detective Chief Thad Brown that I didn't remember the girl or the name until a friend recalled it was she who worked as an extra in a scene with me in my picture. Young man with a horn. Douglas was quoted as saying, in the October 13, 1949 issue of the San Bernardino Sun. Then I recalled that she was a tall girl in a green dress and that I talked and kidded with her a bit on the set, as I have done with many other people. But I never saw her before or after that and have never been out with her. Following this line investigation, Jean's mother Florence vaguely recalled her daughter mentioning a Kirk from the movie set. Her friend Robert Cummings revealed that she had hinted at a new romance just a week before her disappearance. I asked her if it was serious, he told the Los Angeles Times. She said, "Not exactly, but I'm having the time of my life." Could this Kirk be the elusive love interest she had spoken of? The true identity of Kirk remains a buried secret, but the ever-changing landscape of Hollywood made it impossible to pinpoint the true identity of this elusive Kirk. The shadow of suspicion stretched further when rumors about Kirk Douglas's character in his early years came to light. In a memoir written by Natalie Wood's sister, Lana Wood, she alleged that Kirk Douglas had raped Natalie when she was just a teenager. While Kirk Douglas vehemently denied these accusations, they cast a long shadow over his reputation, adding to the intrigue surrounding his possible involvement in Jean Spangler's case. Furthermore, Kirk Douglas openly admitted that he hadn't always been the pleasant and charming man the public came to know and love. His confession about his youthful demeanor raised questions about his past behavior and connections. Amidst these rumors and revelations, Kirk Douglas's link to Jean Spangler remains a tantalizing mystery, leaving investigators and true crime enthusiasts searching for answers in the dark underbelly of Hollywood. In the aftermath of Jean Spangler's disappearance, Hollywood never truly recovered. The chilling uncertainty of her fate served as a stark reminder that even the glitziest dreams could be shattered by the darkest realities. But the story doesn't end there. Enter Steve Hodel, a former LAPD detective who has spent years investigating this case. Steve believes he has unearthed a chilling connection between Jean Spangler's disappearance and his own family. The most shocking theory to arise from the investigations implicated the notorious Black Dahlia killer. The macabre similarities between their cases has sent chills down the spines of amateur investigators ever since. Steve Hodel alleges that his own father, Dr. George Hodel, might have been involved in Spangler's murder. But the darkness doesn't stop here. Hodel takes it even further, suggesting that his father could have been the infamous Black Dahlia killer. The uncanny resemblance between Spangler and Black Dahlia victim Elizabeth Short is uncanny. Unearthed district attorney documents and logs indicate a connection between the two: Short killing, Spangler's disappearance, and other unsolved murders in Hollywood, including Jean French in 1947 and Gladys Kern in 1948. The Black Dahlia case, a gruesome and haunting chapter in Hollywood's history, unfolded in January 1947 when the mutilated body of Elizabeth Short was discovered in a vacant lot. Her body had been severed at the waist, and her mouth was grotesquely slashed from ear to ear, earning her the chilling moniker, the Black Dahlia. The brutality of the murder shocked the nation, and the investigation led to countless dead ends. The Black Dahlia case became one of the most infamous unsolved murders in history, haunting the city and captivating true crime enthusiasts for generations. Steve Hodel's belief that his father, Dr. George Hodel, could have been the Black Dahlia killer is a chilling revelation. Dr. Hodel's connections to Spangler and the similar modus operandi in both cases have led to disturbing speculations. As we delve into the gruesome details of the Black Dahlia murder, the horrifying truth becomes even more evident. Elizabeth Short's body was meticulously and sadistically mutilated, her remains left on display for the world to see. If Jean Spangler was also a victim of the killer, it does beg the question, why were her remains hidden, whilst Elizabeth's mutilated corpse was forced to suffer one final humiliating injustice, even in death? Steve Hodel's relentless pursuit of the truth leaves us with haunting questions. Could Dr. George Hodel have been the elusive Black Dahlia killer, and did his dark secrets extend to the disappearance of Jean Spangler? Spangler may have called for help later that night at a gas station near the Sunset Strip. A station attendant named Art Rogers told police that a man and woman matching Spangler's description came to the station in a blue-gray convertible early that morning. The man bought gas and told Rogers they were headed to Fresno, but as they drove off, the woman, who shrank down in the passenger seat, cried out, "Have the police follow this car." Rogers called police, but by the time they responded, the trail was cold. Hodel believes his father was this man spotted with Spangler. He fits the description, and he drove a 1936 black Packard sedan resembling the one Rogers described. The vehicle also matches descriptions of cars seen leaving the Short crime scene. In 1947, as investigators struggled to crack the Black Dahlia case, the Los Angeles Examiner printed a map with the headline, "Black Sedan Hunted in LA as Death Car." Was this the same car? Hodel thinks so. "It's my belief she started dating Dad either late September or early October," he says. He gets arrested for incest on October 6th and bails out the same day. Then, the night of her disappearance, she's seen talking to this guy in the restaurant, and they're arguing. She knew something. His father was possibly driven to kill Spangler following an argument over charges of incest filed by his daughter Tamar. Though Dad didn't necessarily need a reason, he adds. Determined to find definitive evidence of his father's crimes, Hodel got clearance to look for forensics at the Soden house in 2012. He hired retired police sergeant Paul Dosty to walk the property with his dog Buster. During two searches, in November 2012 and September 2013, Dosty recovered soil samples from the basement and the slope behind the house, where Buster indicated the smell of human remains. Forensic anthropologist Arpad Vass tested the samples and identified the presence of human remains in the soil. Based on chemical distribution, Vass believes human remains most likely could be found in an area adjacent to the Soden house lot. In an only in Hollywood twist That home belonged to that 70s show star Laura Prepon at the time. Hodel says the LAPD brushed off the discovery, but he reached out to Prepon via her attorney, requesting permission to conduct a non-invasive sweep of her property. His request was denied, says Hodel, who adds that he has not followed up on searching that space since the fall of 2013, but intends to down the road. Prepon's spokesperson declined to comment to EW, stating the actress no longer owns the property in question. Still, Hodel suspects that answers are hidden in that soil. It could well be the body of a Jane Doe whose body was never found, or Jean Spangler, he asserts. As we continue our investigation into the tangled web of Hollywood, one thing becomes clear. The glamorous exterior hides secrets more sinister than any movie plot.